My name is Nequai and I work at Van Elston High School. I currently teach Advanced Functions and Modeling, better known as AFM, and I also teach IB Math Studies First Block. I've been working in the county for 17 years, and I have been at Smith High School now for 14 years. The class that I currently did my lesson on was the AFM class, and there are 25 students technically, but the lesson that I did involved 15 students, and out of the 15 there were 5 that were ELL students today. I am so particular when it comes to vocabulary. I don't know if it's because it's what's supposed to happen, or if it's because I feel as though, and I tell my students this, I feel as though when you speak to people and you're speaking about a topic, you have to be able to speak in the language of the topic. You know, if you're speaking about math, then you have to be able to communicate mathematically. You can use some of your lingo, but you also have to show people that you know what you're talking about. It's almost like being an expert in that particular moment. So like today, when I wanted them to say parent function, they weren't feeling it at first, but eventually somebody got there, and they kept trying though, because I kept taking their words, and I even threw out one of my own words without giving them the word, just kind of guiding them and facilitating through their thinking, and it kind of makes them feel like they just did it on their own, and then they remember it. The vocabulary is really, really important because, like I said, it shows off some of your expertise, and it makes people know that you really know what you're talking about. Moving into the beginning part, as far as them standing up, I think that's just my own personal touch. It always helps me figure out how engaged they are, and it helps them figure out who's engaged because they know what the expectations are. And a lot of times, if one of them is standing or participating and someone else is not, before I have to redirect them, the other students will redirect them. And I think that that's always pretty neat because it holds everyone in the room accountable. They like the movement, especially in the beginning, especially if it's something that they think that they can do, even if it's just as simple as show me this. And then they can look around the room and they can see, and even if they didn't catch on at first, even if they just copy it. And I can tell who's kind of copying, which is fine because I just want them doing. And then I can ask other questions, and it kind of guides my questions for them. Helps me be able to see who is actually in some ways paying attention and who's watching me and what kind of feedback they're giving me as far as that whole body language. Okay, so the shape, show me possibly what the shape with your body of an exponential function could look like. Make it up. What do you think? I got one right here. I don't know if that's right or not. I've got 2 that almost look the same. I've got another one that almost looks like that, but look. So turn around and look. Which way? Possibly.
It can go this way.
It could go both ways? This way? Okay, so do the shape, everyone, then with your body if you're convinced, either way that you want to go. Okay. So one of your arms is kind of, describe it, kind of what? Bent? Straight? Like this? A straight line? Bent. What's another word? What is it? It's curved. Little curved. One side is a little curved, and the other one kind of goes into a straight, tapered off type line? Yes? Okay, very good. And you said that it could go either way, right? What else do you know? Like if I were to put this on the coordinate plane, aside from it bending and all those things, we talked about some parent functions at one point in time. And what do you know about the parent function of an exponential? It won't touch 0. So what is one of your main points that you should know, like your reference point? What is it? 0. So your reference point for your exponential function is what again? 0, 0, 1. Very good. You cannot get the students to go where you want them to go if you will not acknowledge where they are. You don't have to agree with them, which of course teaches really good argument skills for that sake. There's no way that I can talk about having this money. I stand before them and they think that everything is rosy. So like with the exponentials today, and I start talking about, well, how much money do you want to make? Of course, it sounds crazy for someone to say, or at least it feels like it sounds crazy for them to say, well, I want to have $2.2 million. Now, to the average person that's standing there, you might look at them and think, you're not going to make $2.2 million. That's might be a really rare shot. But you can't get him to do anything if you shoot down his $2.2 million. So you have to accept it, and you have to go with it. And you have to take some of what they give you and just kind of turn it into what you want them to, or where you want them to go. You can't disrespect what they know and think that you can just take them to where you want them to be. You have to acknowledge something about what it is that they know, even if it's the smallest little thing. And it does take practice. It does. But you can only get that practice again if you kind of put yourself in their world a little bit. You don't have to accept all of it, but you got to put yourself in their world, just a little, so that you can know how to bring them out of it. So does anybody remember what you all have been working on the last couple of days? What's the topic? Exponential and logarithmic functions? Gotcha. Yeah, functions. That is. All right. Well, in order for us to be able to understand exactly what happens with these exponential functions, at least the exponentials, we are going to model some behavior so that you can see some real life stuff. And I'm going to ask you a question that is pretty much in your area as far as what you kind of want to grow up and do. You want to have some money. Yes? Yes? Yes or no? No? Yeah? How much money do you want to make, Bobby? You got to speak up. You don't know? How much money do you want to make?
At least 50K a year.
Thank you, Tajay. Realistically, seriously, how much do you want to make?
2.2 mil.
2.2 mil. All right. What about, what'd you say, Mr. Slade? What is it that how much do you want to make?
Like 50K a year.
50K a year. How much is 50K a year? What is that? K? 50,000? How can you want to make that if you don't know how much that is? What is that K? What is the K? 1,000. So you want to make approximately 50,000 a year? Okay. Well, if it's a year, then that's what we talked about when we were doing the whole compound interest thing. No. If it's every year, then what's another word for that? What is it? Annually. So you just said, oh, you got it now?
I got it.
Yes, you got it. I believe that, again, students have to be accountable. They have to. But if the teacher is the one that's always giving them the ideas, and I've seen it especially with little kids think that their teachers know everything. They'll go home and they'll debate their parents that have 2 and 3 degrees, and they'll say, no, but my teacher said. And it's almost like building a mini robot. And in some ways, I detest that idea. I don't want a mini me. I don't want that. I want you to be able to think logically. And even if you're wrong, I want you to be able to stand up for what it is that you think is going on. And I want you to be able to debate that. I want you to be able to use the vocabulary. I want you to be able to have a very sound argument to the point where you're almost able to convince me. I mean, and that takes a lot of practice. Well, they can't do that if you're only standing in front of them telling them to do it this way. And it's only one way. And you're not looking at what they're doing. Again, acknowledging where they are and what they have. So I think it's important for the students to know that they have this skill and that they have knowledge. Having them see that they are the experts in the room instead of making me the expert allows me to facilitate just a little bit better. I'm not the expert. I tell them all the time, they're the expert. And if they help me then I can help them. But if they feed me nothing, then I can give them nothing. I don't have anything to go off of. So my energy usually comes from their energy. So, Simone, I want you to come talk to the class about your paper. Yeah, you're going to go after her. All right, gentlemen, pause. All right, pause for a second, and she needs your attention. Come on. You get to go up front.
What I did was I started off from the beginning. It's 1 times 2 is 2. And I kept going until I
So,
reached.
where's your first number? Point. Because it kind of looks, okay. So, stand on this side. And then, can y'all see that? Yes? Yes? Okay. So, talk about that and go ahead.
So I did 1 times 2, which I got 2. Did 2 times 2, 4. 4 times 2, 8. 8 times 2, 16. 16 times 2, 32. 32 times 2, 64. 64 times 2, 128. 128 times 2, 256.
Okay, stop for just a second. I want you to take the marker and I want you to go put at least that first row up there. Your calculations, okay? Just what you just said, okay? Here. Yes, I do want you to come up. All right. Go ahead.
So I took the dollar that they said that you was going to get for the first year, and I would multiply it by 2. And I would keep pulling the number out and multiply by 2 each year until I got to, this was the wrong number, I think. So
Okay.
it's right here. So I put 20, that was 21. This is 20.
Okay. Do Simone and Kiera have the same method for option 2? Yes? Yes? Okay. Do you think that there's another way that we might have been able to find that number after we look at the pattern? That's what I want you to be looking for. Or that's what I'd like for you to look for. So if that is indeed truly the right number, what we're trying to figure out is there another pattern or something that you know about that would help you find this a lot faster? Okay, so Darrell right now is thinking you'd have to make an equation. Because if I asked you how much you would have after 100 years, like let's say you left money behind for somebody, then you wouldn't want to sit here and do this 100 different times, would you? No. Okay, so I want you to be thinking about what it is that they have in common. I don't want to play down their skills, but in order for them to be able to play up on their skills, they do have to be able to understand a lot of the vocabulary. So a lot of times, I do a lot of grouping in class, even though 5 doesn't seem like it's a lot as far as the number of students. It makes a big difference because a lot of these students are really good students, and their hold up or hang up really does tend to be in the vocabulary. They can do a lot of skill problems, but their interpretation of the way that we ask the questions, the way that we word certain things as far as, the way that we use our vocabulary is a lot different than what they're used to seeing. Grouping my students helps them a lot. Actually playing on the skill that they have, their very strong skill problems, helps my other students. So I kind of use them in that respect so that I can use their strengths. And then my other students will kind of help them with their vocabulary and making relationships. So remember, I talked to you about making money, right? And sometimes when you want to make money, and I'm serious, when you want to make money, sometimes you can invest your money to make it grow. All right, so go ahead and pick up your calculators, and I want you to work with your group. And the next thing that's supposed to happen is it says show how much you would gain at the end of 20 years for option 1. Okay? So however you want to show that, you can draw you a picture, you can type some numbers in the calculator, but whatever you either type in the calculator, whatever you draw, whatever you map out, you need to be able to show it. If you make an equation, I need you to put it in a space. If you don't have enough space, you can pull out some paper. So then you need to write them down. See, you're going off what you think, trying to plug it into the calculator, as opposed to what you know. Write down what you know. So write down your info. So is that gonna, now let me ask you a question, is that gonna help you keep up with your thoughts? So if all you have on paper is $1, what does that $1 represent? So then are you missing some info? Okay. So the idea is for you to do a little bit of, remember you said I'm still thinking, but you gotta get your thinking on paper. A lot of times, my assessment, I guess because I've gotten, or at least if it's something that I can say is really good, the one thing that I can appreciate, I think, about myself and the skill is the questioning. So a lot of times my assessment of where they are and what they know comes from my questioning. A lot of times after my questioning will be the students' questioning, them revoicing a lot of things. So we have a lot of discourse in the room, which again I do believe is really important for my ELL learners, because if they get to hear it a bunch of different ways, and then I write down what they say or I put it up under the presenter, then they get to see different representations of the questions and the way that the questions would be asked and answered, and then they have some flexibility in their answering and their learning. It just opens up a really wide world is if the discourse is there for that assessment. And I go to 0-1. Is that in the right spot?
No.
No? Which way do I need to go?
Go up.
Go up? How many spaces? One?
Right there.
Okay, right there. He's like, duh. Okay. And then you said that one side is supposed to be kind of what? Curved. So which side would you like me to curve?
The right side.
Okay, so this side over here? Yes? So you want me to curve this one? Yes? Which quadrant is this?
1-1 in the first one.
First quadrant? First quadrant? Well, what quadrant would this one be in? All right, this one? 4. 4. So you want me to curve this side, so I can kind of curve it. Curve it. Well, what do you want me to do on quadrant 2? Straight. Straight? Am I supposed to go? Not straight down. Not straight down. Okay. Straight. So describe it a little bit.
Like a curve or straight. Like curve a little bit, but then like and then even out the
Just
straight.
ride it out.
Even out again.
Ride it out. Ride it out along what?
The x-axis.
Okay. Am I supposed to touch the x-axis?
No.
Close to it.
I gotta get close to it.
No matter how close.
Doesn't matter. As close as I can get with this red marker, and I ride it out.
That's very cool.
Like that? Yes? The first one would be, of course, to be patient. The English learners that I've come across a lot of times, depending on where they've gone to school or how much schooling they've had, they do have a very good educational background. They have a zest for learning, and if it doesn't seem very apparent at the beginning, you just have to figure out what their interest is, and you have to pull on that interest. I also think that aside from them being patient, to, I guess, try to learn some things about their English learners, because once the English learners figure out that you're interested in some things that, you know, they're interested in, I guess like any other student, they work a little bit harder, they try a little bit harder. They'll even teach you some things about maybe their language that you can incorporate in your classrooms. And so if you focus, I guess, on a lot of their vocabulary, a lot of their interests, put a little bit of time into figuring out how learning went in their countries or wherever it is, I guess, they did most of their learning, then you would feel like you're being a little bit more successful with them. And then the other thing is to try not to measure their success by the student that is a non-English language learner. Like, you can't compare the two. It's like apples and oranges. You would be surprised at how much more you're giving that student without them necessarily always getting A's on their paper. You have to find a different way to assess them, in a sense. And then I think you would feel a little bit more successful. And a lot of times, I try to remember the fun stuff that they used to do, because I think that we forget sometimes as high school teachers that, they like to do hands-on things, they like to do manipulatives, and I think we sell them short on whether or not they can handle some of the word problems and presentations and stuff. So I try to bring all of that stuff into play when I'm doing the lesson planning.